This is the engine from my GPZ900R that was left in a barn for 28 years. In the last video, I took off all these bits so that I can restore them back to their former glory. Now, there's easy bits like this metal pipe that I think will just be all right with a quick sandblast and a paint. This, again, just a quick blast and a polish up, and that will look really good. Other things, however, the alternator, even though I believe this to be working well and it has a very good bearing in, I can't just spray paint it because I'll end up painting all the electrical components on the inside. So that's going to have to be kind of partly stripped apart. Same with the starter motor. I need to mask it all up and give it a good rub down, get all the surface rust off, protect the label because it's quite cool to have the original stickers on stuff, and then give that a blast and paint as well. Things like the cam cover, I'm just going to clean this up and paint it. It's going to just look nice and new by the time I've finished. And the same with the engine side covers as well. First things first, I'm going to have a look at the water pump. Now, I've managed to pull the shaft seal out of the end in the hope that it would reveal some sort of circlip. It has, but it's very minging in there, as you can see in there. So I'll clean all that gunk out and hopefully we'll be able to get to the circlip that holds in the shaft, which, as you can see, well, this whole thing's a bit minging. Right, now with the gunk cleaned out, you can kind of see a circlip in there. So I'm going to remove that and hopefully that shaft will knock through the casing. So I'm trying this new 3-camera thing. So I've got that one, this one, that one. Cool, right. So let's try and get this circlip out. So just pinch them on there and then that should come out nicely like that. Now I think, well, I'm hoping that I can tappy and it'll come out. That's the plan. So with a 3-camera setup, I've been advised to do this. That way you can time all the video clips together. We'll see when it comes to editing. Right, so the Kawasaki manual and the Haynes manual, both of them say that this is not a serviceable part. This is a replaceable part. You cannot fix this. However, I don't really do that. Bigger hammer. See, I reckon that will come out. Yeah, it's definitely moving, but I need to go pop it on a vise, sit it on there and whack it down. Or maybe it doesn't need a vise. Maybe I can use something else. Because basically all this consists of is a shaft with a bearing or two and a shaft seal to stop the water from coming out. There is a drainage hole that is kind of rusted up. I don't know if you can see that there. Can you? I don't know which camera to point this at. And I can feel the bearing is kind of like horrible. So it would have needed replacing if I wasn't going to take it apart. But I think this is serviceable. I think the manuals are wrong. What if I whack it on there? Oh, look at that. It's perfect. Okay, that's just destroying my tissue roll. Okay, I'm going to go try and knock this out on a more substantial surface area. Ta-da! So the shaft is out, and I was right. It is just a solid shaft with the propeller on the end. So that I will pop in my drill, spin it up, and polish the surfaces for the bearing and the shaft seal. What else is in here? Some sort of spring. Don't know if you can see that. This is funny. There's a bearing, which obviously I need to tap out. Oh, there we go. Right. So there is a spring attached to a bit of plastic. See that on there? Doing, doing, doing. That's what it looks like on the inside of there. there's a bearing there, which I'm going to tap out and replace. And I think that this is just a top hat seal, which will come off of there. Yeah, so that's a plastic kind of washer kind of thing. And this is a bit of a gasket on it. There's a rubber kind of bushy seal. You must be able to buy these. Must be a standard kind of thing. So all that's left to do really now is possibly tap that bit out and tap the bearing out. Yeah, repairable. Right, so I'll finish off with that and then give it a good clean and a blast and a paint and put it all back together. Easy, right? Well, it depends if I can get these bits, to be honest. Give it a go. There we go. After a lot of bashing and, well, bashing, I've managed to get both the bearings out. This weird looking thing here, a springy thing with a seal on it. Hopefully I can get a rebuild kit. I will let you know. So I've just stripped off all the bits from the two metal water pipes, and as you can see, they're pretty minging. Yeah, I've got new hoses. I'll obviously get new Jubilee clips. These are going to get blasted. Oh, that needs to come off of there. And then, yeah, blast that. Here's the other one. And I've also done the same with the two manifolds. That one and that one. So they're ready now to be hopefully saved. No promises. Yeah. I get moaned at every now and again in the comments when they see how filthy my car gets. In my defence, I do a lot of motorway miles, but I thought I'd just show you the car after I've had it cleaned. Yes, I said had it cleaned. I do not have time to wash cars. There you go, nice and shiny. In all fairness, I do love the way this car looks when it's freshly cleaned. Now I'm going to try and very carefully take these pipes off the bottom of the oil cooler, because I think I can save this. I really do. So I've left it soaking in WD. I'm taking those things out, the rubber fittings. I'm going to take those rubber fittings out as well. I'll do it in a minute. Let's try and crack these off. Weapon of choice, adjustable spanner and 14mm socket. Come on. Please don't snap, please don't snap. Oh dear. Right, let's try a slightly different method in which I close the tools together. So I use fingers. Woohoo! Excellent. So normally with these things, once you crack the initial seal of the bolt, they come off quite nicely, as that one did. And hopefully the one on the other side will come off just as easily. Famous last words. Now I reckon I might be able to clean that up, because it doesn't leak and the rubber feels all right. Ooh, that one wasn't very tight at all. Amazing. Cool. Right. Oil cool. So what else is left on here? Rubber grommets. Let's get them out, which I've soaked with WD-40 to make my life a little bit easier. Amazed at how much WD-40 helps with pushing seals and stuff out. And now all that's left on here is a very rusty looking mesh protector. So let's I don't think that's going to come undone, actually. Nope. Impact screwdriver time. I do like this thing, but I can't help but feel this might be a little bit brutal for this little oil cooler. Needs something a bit more solid underneath it. Oh, this is just going to bend the bracket. Socket. Good idea, isn't it? There you go. Put that on there, like that. Ready? Hey! One smooth whack. Huzzah! Well, no one was expecting that, were they? I certainly wasn't. I mean, they are rusty. And then that should come off nicely. As you can see, that's pretty minging and rusty. Can go in the bead blast pile. And then this can also go in the bead blast pile, with the exception of that rubber seal that comes out of there. Just the clutch cover and the points cover to disassemble. I need to disassemble the alternator. We're getting there though. Here is the clutch cover, which I'm going to disassemble the inside of, prepare it for blasting and painting. So just going to take this little tube out. I already cracked the screw off camera. Apologies for that. It was quite tight. Just undo this one as well, if I can. Oh dear, it's tight. This is where it all goes wrong. Maybe I should just leave this in. I mean, is there any benefit to taking it out? There we go. I just like to do things thoroughly. Good little tubey thing. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this is in aid of. It's got, well, it looks like a snapped off drain plug or something, but it doesn't actually have anything that removes, so I don't really get it how that works. So whether it's an overflow or an overpressure thing, not sure. If you guys want to let me know in the comments, feel free. Are these going to be just as tight as that one? Yes. I think this is just probably some sort of distribution plate or something like that, some sort of shield. But I'll pop it off and hope that there aren't a million little springs behind it, fly out and get lost everywhere. Note to self, thread lock when these go back in, because the last thing you want is a bolt rattling around in the clutch housing. Ooh, bang. Yep, that is just a, ooh, big soft squishy rubber thing. That smells of petrol. It shouldn't smell of petrol, should it? No, it shouldn't. Well, I'm glad I took it apart because it obviously needs a good clean from where the engine had petrol in it, as in petrol was getting in the oil when I first got the bike. So yeah, that smells really bad. Okay, cool. So that can be prepped and these can go to one side for now. Righto. Last but not least, the alternator is going to get a little bit of a strip down. So I'm going to take the bolt out of the end. That should come off relatively nicely. Come on. There we go. It's on a nice splined shaft. I do want to paint this, and I can't do that with the copper coils exposed. So this is what I got to do. So I'm going to undo the 3 bolts holding at least this rear casing bit in, and then figure out how to take the rest of it apart. It's the plan anyway. Nice. So obviously I can paint that with ease. This looks a bit minging. It's got a transistor on there, which might be worth replacing, because I don't know if you can see, well, I know you can see if I point it at each of these cameras. it's rather rusty. I should probably look into replacing that transistor. Okie doke. So how do we get the rest of this apart? A few screws. It's quite interesting. So that feels like it should. Guess not. Probably have to take some more stuff apart. Well, I'm going to undo those 3 screws on there. I mean, who in their right mind would take apart a perfectly good working alternator just so he can make it look a bit nicer? This guy. Let's go right here. So take these 3 screws out of this end. There's a little O-ring on them as well. So I'll put the O-ring back on them so that I don't forget that's where it goes. Okay, with those 3 screws out, does that... Yep. That removes the whole armature. It's probably the wrong word. There's no way that this is going to work again, is there? There's 3 screws on this side that I'm going to take out. 1, 2, 3. That allows me to remove the electronics to a certain extent. I think I might have to unsolder these wires though to get it apart any further. So to pull this off, so this is the brushes for the motor, I need to unsolder it from there. So I guess I'll do that. While I'm in here, I would say fit new brushes, but these have got years of life left on them. Okay, cool. I'm going to go get the soldering iron, desolder those wires so I can take that off and then remove the rest of the casing. And then it can be prepped for paint. Okie doke, let's try and unsolder these wires. A little bit of solder on the wire, and hopefully this soldering iron is man enough. Come on, melt. Yes! Soldering iron is just about man enough. So I've done one, do the other 2, and then should be able to thread that back through there. So I've managed to unsolder all 3 of those wires. I'm just going to take these screws back out because I put them back in to take a photo basically, so I could see what I was doing. Not so I could see what I was doing, sorry, so I could remember how everything goes back together. Now that should now lift off of there. There's a bit too much solder on the wire. Just melt it down a little bit. Hey, there we go. Solder off. So now this should come off. Yes, right. Woohoo! Electric gubbins off. Hopefully now, when I tappy that, that comes out. Awesome. Ooh. So a big dirty coil thing, which I thought I was going to be able to remove from that, but maybe I can't. Put that to one side. And then is it the armature? Is that what it's called? That should come out of there. The bearing feels lovely. But anyway, that's going to be easier to mask up, ready for paint. So I can protect that and do a good job of the painting. Right, anyway, I'm waffling on. That's that done. Happy days. So I've started masking this up, and I realised that this is actually stuck in there, or I thought it was all part of the same kind of casting. So I'm going to get these badges out. I'd imagine it's the same on this as well. It looks like it. So if I can get them out, I can actually save, well, I can paint them properly, because I think it's going to be quite awkward trying to paint them back to original spec with them in there. Cool. Nice. So with these badges, the plan is to make this GPZ bit red and the background black with the upper surface area polished. So they're in primer at the minute. Let's chuck some red paint in the GPZ bit, like so. Now wipe off all the red from the top layer, like so, just like that. Now I'm going to mask the face up that I've just filed off and paint the rest of it black. Black paint applied. I'll now wait for that to dry, peel off the masking tape and polish up the face of Kawasaki. Masking tape removed. Genuinely couldn't be happier with the way that's worked out. It's only one thing with a 40-year-old engine that's got the original gaskets on. Getting these ceiling faces clean is proving to be an absolute nightmare. There's probably an easier way. Chuck it in the comments if you've got any better plans, but I'll have probably finished this by the time this video goes out. I used a razor blade to get the majority of it off, but it's just so stuck on there. There we go. That took a while, but at least now I know that that's going to be a good ceiling face. With the alternator housing, I've just popped out this shaft seal because this stops oil from coming out via the alternator. and it's held in by this washer. Well, it's not, so the washer went in first and then the shaft seal went in. So I've just popped that out because I'm going to put a new shaft seal in. There were a couple of comments in the last video about me getting oil everywhere because I took the clutch cover off and all the oil came out. And that is because there are two sump plugs on this engine. One there, which I did undo, and one there, which I didn't undo. So I'm going to just pop that out now and just drain the rest of the oil out before we go any further. Wow. Now bear in mind at this point, I've already taken the oil filter off. There's still a lot of oil in there. What a wally, eh? I've put a couple of bits back on it because I wanted to paint the casing without having to strip it apart and blast it. So let me just show you. Here we go. So I put the rocker cover back on and I put 2 screws back on that. And on the other side, I put the clutch casing back on. So I cleaned it all up, got all the grease and the grime off. I've masked up all the holes and the entry points of the starter motor and the alternator. All the screw holes I've put bolts in to stop paint from getting in the holes, and I've given it a splash of matte black high temperature paint. And it's actually come out really, really nicely. A lot better than I thought it would. Now originally, this would have been silver and these stripes would have been silver. So I'm going to get that back to bare aluminium and then give it a coat of clear 2K lacquer. With the top rocker cover, the clutch cover and the points cover on the other side, I want them gloss black. So I'm going to take them back off the engine, prep them by getting all this old paint off, and then maybe get Manny to paint them, or I might do it myself. I haven't decided yet. Okay, the 3 covers are removed again, and I'm going to blast off all this paint. Now, I have access to a sandblaster, which I know isn't ideal. I know a lot of you will be moaning, saying you have to use vapor blaster, don't use a sandblaster, but I'm going to be polishing up all the ceiling faces afterwards, and there's nothing in here that can get damaged by bead. Like I said, I'll be polishing up all the ceiling surfaces around the edge and in there, and I'm not too worried. You know, there's nowhere for any grit to get to that I can't get out. So yes, that's what I'm going to do, and they'll look all nice and non-painted before they go for paint. I've got a box of bits in here. I'm going to go just spend probably hours and hours and hours getting all this paint off, and then I can get to painting and putting it back together. So this is the bee blaster that is in the back of a van. I'm using a very fine grit, so don't worry too much about it. This video doesn't need to be 3 or 4 hours long, so I'm going to crack on with this and I'll just show you all the bits that I've done on the table in a minute. So now I've blasted all the bits, I need to make sure that the ceiling faces are pit free, and I'm doing that with a little bit of emery cloth, and I'm just going round in a forward and backward motion, and you can see they're becoming nice and shiny again. So I'm going to sit here for probably the next couple of weeks doing this, and I'm not going to make you watch it because, well, this is all there is to it really. Just constant until you're happy that it's not pitted from the bead. Anyway, I'll crack on and then I'll be done. This bit also takes ages, where you have to mask the ceiling faces up because you don't want to get paint on them, and then go around with a razor blade so you get a nice paint line as well. There is nothing quick about restoration. There you go. You guys have no idea how long this is taking. Well, I guess if you've done this before, then you will have an idea of how long it takes. But if you're doing this properly, and you want a really nice ceiling face in there, there's not really another way of doing it. See, all of this gunk that I'm getting out of here is the old gasket sealant, and it's actually kind of rubbery. So they've obviously the previous person has used an additional sealant other than the gasket. Making my life a little bit more difficult, but hey, it'll be worth it in the end, right? So I've got a little bit more to do, but you get the gist of it. Make that channel nice and spotless, and also the ones on the inside as well. Oh, nearly there. And with all the grooves nicely cleaned up, I can now mask it up, ready for paint. And just in case you wanted to see me do some painting, I'm outside in the dark underneath a floodlight with my can of primer, and I'm just, yeah, this is my life. Love it. Absolutely love it. And if I drop this, I just need to make sure it's on camera. Ta-da! My drying trolley with the gloss black 2K bits in primer on the top, and underneath I've got hanging all the bits I've gone for with the high temperature stuff. Oh, apart from that, that's going to be 2K gloss. The oil cooler has come out amazing. I'm really happy with it. That's going to look really good when it's back on the bike. And also these water pipes have just come out so good. They're going to look, well, it's going to look new, but I guess that's what I'm going for really, isn't it? Genuinely very excited. I cannot wait to get some paint on these. They're going to look so good. And finally, the weather held out just long enough for me to be able to paint the rest of the bits. They look so good. I'm so happy with those. Right, cool. So now the engine is painted. All the bits that need to go back on the engine are painted. I've even cleaned all the ceiling faces up as well. For some reason, I decided that I only needed to wear one glove whilst I was doing the painting. So now I've got a lot of very difficult to remove paint on my right hand. And that is where I'll leave you this week. Join me next time where I will be reassembling the engine. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and I will catch you next time. Cheers.